Hey, church family. Good Thursday afternoon to you. I'm Janice Cloninger. I'm the Children's Ministry Director at University City United Methodist Church. And here with me today, I have Elizabeth Sullivan, Brian Sullivan, and Dee Price. We were all of a part of the UC Parents Roundtable Talks last Wednesday. And we focused on how to talk to your kids about race. So I just wanted to give you guys a brief overview of kind of what we talked about, and then we're going to get some feedback from our friends here. So we started this roundtable talks conversation talk because I love village parenting, and I want us as a church to grow closer together as a family. And I don't think that ends with, when we're in a community, like a public place, and Elizabeth says, hey, JB, don't do that. I think we talk these hard situations out, and we learn from each other and grow. And that was just an idea I had, and I mentioned it to Erin Banks, and she jumped on board and was a great help in making this happen. Her background working with children was an amazing thing to have. So this first conversation that we had, we talked about how to talk to your kids about race. Kids as young as 3 months notice different colors. We have kids sort different colors in kindergarten. We have them counting out different color little like teddy bear manipulatives, and we sort that out. So they notice these things, and silence makes it worse. Talking about it, even if you don't say exactly the right thing, goes so far in making things better. We not only discussed the fact that children see color and that sometimes we like to ignore it. We discussed how to talk to your kids, how to be open with your kids and everything, not just this, but how to make yourself available and open that door so that whenever they choose to come to you, they know that you're there. And we even found our brave space and shared about how we reacted, and we talked with our kids about what happened to George Floyd. So we really had an amazing conversation, and I personally grew from it. And I think everybody got at least took something away from it that day. And I do believe that we will definitely continue these roundtable talks. Would anybody like to share their takeaways from this past roundtable talk on talking to your kids about race?
So Janice, I'll start. This is Dee. One thing that I really took away from the talk that we had was to really judge your child. So judge where they are, because like you said, as they can know as young as 3 or even 3 months to really know the world around them and who's taking care of them, and that, things are different, skin colors are different, those kinds of things. But judging where they are in their development to either, shield them from the news or give them more description, but your child best, and to be able to talk to them and really make sure that they understand at where they are on how to proceed and how to know and not be judgmental and things like that just because of the skin color, just because of hair color, or somebody's wearing glasses or not, those kinds of things. But as far as the race going, just making sure that they understand things like George Floyd and what happened was not correct, because he was a human being, and a lot of it did have to do, it had to do with his skin color and the skin color of the police and those kinds of things. But just judging where your children are and knowing that where their level is where you also need to be when talking to them about those kinds of things.
Yeah, and also just to add to that, being cognizant of the fact that they're going to hear stuff at school, on the playground, at their sports or activities, at church. So you want to be that first point of contact for them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dee.
I guess I'll chime in next. One of the other things that we talked about as a group was a resource that Janice and Erin shared with us, Dr. Lucretia Berry. Am I saying the right last name correct? Just about the issue of colorblindness. I think comes from a really good place to recognize, even biblically, that God doesn't separate us into different categories based on what we look like, or if we wear glasses or our hair color or anything like that, but to either ourselves behave this way, or to speak into our children a way to behave that ignores our differences and ignores the diversity of God's creation, then we are putting our children in a space where they don't have the tools to face what they will face at school. They don't have the tools or the language to speak on the playground to another child. And also to ignore that part of identity, to ignore that part of creation, is to ignore God's creativity, right? To ignore the beauty of God's creation, as if to say, oh no, we're all exactly the same. No, we're not all exactly the same. And thank goodness that we're not. We're a diverse population, and we should learn how to have those tools to have tough conversations, but also develop the appreciation for the diversity that exists.
Yes. Dr. Lucretia Berry says that, and it's true, we are all one human race, but we're all different shades of brown.
The shades of brown thing is interesting. Our two boys, the older one favors Elizabeth and is a little bit more fair-skinned, and the younger one favors me a little more and is a little bit quicker to tan. And I saw my older boy sitting looking at the younger boy's skin going, huh. And this was right after we had started talking about George Floyd and just the unrest that had been happening. And he said, Daddy, my skin's not the same as Jack's, is it? I said, no, buddy, it's a little bit different. Are people going to treat us differently because of the color of our skin? I said, well, I don't think so, but it is an interesting thing. Why would we get treated differently? So it opened a door for us because we had started and had that conversation. And I was really thankful that in this talk, this roundtable, looking at a slide, I'll throw it up here on the screen, looking at this slide about the developmental awareness of kids, because we look at younger kids and we think, oh, they play with everybody. It's great, right? Oh, kids, you never see race on the playground. They're just playing. Well, they don't have the baggage that their older generations have had, and ignoring it or pretending like they're going to stay in that bubble forever certainly doesn't equip them to do it. So I just thought it was so fascinating to think, not only are they aware of it, they're keenly aware of it. Like sorting and understanding and making sense of the world is like their primary job at that era, at that age. So we absolutely need to be proactive with it. So I thought that was fascinating. And just to kind of come up with, how do we developmentally appropriately talk about some of these topics, right? A kid, my 6-year-old doesn't understand the struggles with policing in America and the history of policing in America, and doesn't need to understand the history of policing in America yet. He understands that his uncle is a really good police officer and takes care of people, but he also knows that there are bad police officers who have done bad things because they haven't been taught right, or they've been given power. And so having some of those conversations, and I think we got some good tools for differentiating based on how old the kids are. It was a nice thing to do. I'll also say, if there are any moms or dads watching this, it was interesting to be the only dad kind of involved in the call. John was there for a little while. I know he had to run off, and a lot of dads were just running around taking care of kids that don't have grandma and grandpa around. But I hope that if there are dads out there, we can maybe get a conversation going amongst us as well, because it really, it takes everybody we can get to make it right.
Thank you guys for sharing your experience with our UC Parents Roundtable Talks. One thing that we did do as a team before last Wednesday was we just collected a lot of resources. We have mentioned Dr. Lucretia Berry. She has a study called What Lies Between Us. This was an amazing study. I did this a few weeks back. And also we'll add the link for her TED Talk to this so that you guys can go to that. But here, this is called The Gospel in Color. This was an amazing resource that I actually was able to share with all of the parents that attended. This is the parent version of it, and there's also a kids version of it. It's a side-by-side guide. It walks you through talking to your kids about this, and there's prayers and discussion questions, and it's an amazing resource. But things just as simple as being intentional with who your kids' leaders are, their coaches, their teachers, going to festivals or restaurants that are not, your typical restaurant that are from different ethnicities. Bringing your children as early as possible around different cultures, and just letting them see that everybody is different, even though we are all the same. We're the human race. And that God loves all of us, every single one of us. He does not sort us, as Elizabeth said earlier. We are all his children, and he loves us fiercely, and he just wants a relationship with us. So yeah, we just want to come beside parents and help with resources. And I'm not saying I can answer any questions specifically about this, but I can definitely point you in a direction. I can point you to The Gospel in Color and to Lucretia Berry, and I will pray with you and walk beside you with this, because it's village parenting, and we do need to start with our younger kids, because we just do. I think that's probably the easiest place to start. The easiest place to start. It's hard to change us older people's minds, but but kids, just start them out here and let them go and let them change this world and make it a better place. And I have hope for the future in this area. I do. Thank you guys all for joining me today for this conversation. We'll definitely have some links for you to check out these resources. Have a great Thursday.
Yeah, and this isn't the last one either, right, Janice? We're still talking about
yes.
more options to connect.
Definitely not. We are looking, probably in the next 2 weeks, we'll start prepping for UC Parents Roundtable Talks, focusing on this pandemic and how kids are dealing with it and coping, and maybe what we can do to help. I mean, we all struggle with this. But yeah, we want to focus on the kids for a minute and see if we can give them some hope in this time.
Very good. Well, thanks for putting this all together, Janice. Appreciate it.
Thank you.